What's happening, Crypto Land? My name is Phil. This is the Fun with Crypto podcast. We are in season 2, and this is episode 22. So in this episode, we end up doing a lightning roundtable, which kind of had a funny beginning to it because, as I end up explaining during or at the beginning of it, I was only expecting to interview, maybe 2 or 3 people and just kind of have a small discussion. And what happened was that Roundtable, who's the main contributor to the RaspiBlitz project, went and invited a whole bunch of different people from all the different that essentially write all these different pieces and that are contributing to this project. So it ended up turning out to be this amazing roundtable of 10 people that all contribute to the RaspiBlitz project in some way. And anyways, it's really incredible. We end up talking about the RaspiBlitz as well. We have Staticus 3000 from the RaspiBolt, who is talking to us about this new product they're working on called the Bitbox. So anyways, we end up talking about a whole bunch of different things. I'm going to give everybody's Twitter information in the show notes at the end. And I just want to give a little introduction to who's going to actually be on. So we're going to have Staticus 3000, Roundtable, Open Noms, Crypto Cloaks, Sal BK, Fluid Voice, Frankie, BTC Socialist, and Romy 75. Everybody contributes in in some way, and everybody's going to give their stories and how they contribute. And it's actually my longest episode, 2.5 hours long. So it's really incredible. We end up touching on so many different parts of Lightning, and I'm really glad to share this with you. I hope it's I hope it's educational, and I hope it's also fun. Without further ado, let's get started. Guys, I want to thank everybody for joining, especially on such short notice. As I explained earlier in this, at the beginning of this podcast, I really only planned on interviewing a couple of people, and it just totally blew up into this fantastic roundtable of, to me, the who is who of Lightning, and the Lightning in terms of the hardware, the dev space for that, and essentially building the future of the Lightning network in terms of retail adoption and possibly even commercial adoption. So I thank you all very much for taking the time to be here. I know everybody here contributes in different ways. So we've got a lot of people here from the Lightning space and from Bitcoin. So I'm going to get started with the introductions because we've got at least 10 of you guys. So here we go. I'm going to start off from left to right, just to make it easier on myself. So we're going to start off with Open Noms. Open Noms, thank you very much for joining us. And if you could just share a little bit about about yourself and your story. How are you here? Go ahead, Open Noms.
First of all, I'm very yes. I never met any of you in real life, so this is kind of first time. So thank you. First of all, yes, I got into started to hear about Bitcoin in like 2013, but then got into it about 2 years ago. Started with some, good old mining, setting up GPU rigs and everything. I loved hardware all my life, so that was kind of the entry. And then, as I learned, as everyone does, it came to me that is Bitcoin, which is the only, chance to become money. So, dove deeper into that and started to learn a bit more. My day job, I'm a doctor in the meat space, so recently just changed to a job where I had more free time. So that was a good thing because could attend much more to my hobbies. So I think it was last September when I've ended up buying a Raspberry Pi, and first of all started to build a RaspiBolt with the excellent Staticus guide, and then shortly after I've discovered the RaspiBlitz and some more hardware, getting a display up, and then I was attending some boot camps like the video boot camps of Justin Moon and a couple more online learning resources, and got into coding a bit, and I just find it so fulfilling to have a project such open and something which you can contribute to and really build a community, and just it's a way of learning for me, and I think it's so for a lot of people who we can help a lot. So I just happy to be able to participate in it.
That's amazing. And I noticed behind you, you've got a lightning node running on one side.
Audio. Just maybe I will get and ask. So when I see you contributing on the RaspiBlitz project, you experiment a lot with different hardware. So why are you doing this, and why do you see it's important to port the RaspiBlitz to something else than the Raspberry Pi?
Right. Yes. So as I came into running a full node, and well, that was one thing, but then running a lightning node on top, I came into the Raspibolt and then to the RaspiBlitz, which is kind of based on the same infrastructure. And as I perceive it, it's it has become a kind of an industry standard. So a lot of people use this setup, or very similar, or starting off and ending up with something compatible. And I thought, well, I understand that the Raspberry Pi is the cheapest. It's like the minimum which we need to have to do this. But I like to do some payment routing. I like to run an Electrum server. Even serving my friends' requests through it. Whoever trusts me, can connect to it. Same with the Lightning channels. And for that, I need, better hardware. I mean, more powerful hardware. And even I think maybe having some old PCs or like a laptop, and just having, the RaspiBlitz as an operating system on it, kind of. So it's a dedicated machine. And because it needs to be always on for the current state of Lightning. And to, if more people are using it, for sure. And also found the other thing, the Thunderoid, which is based on the Odroid HT1, which is again the same architecture as the Raspibolt, and went down the rabbit hole of buying a couple of these things. You might see some of them running here in the background. So yeah.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. Thank you very much for explaining that. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
We're going to.
I think the mic is still switched off at Concarious.
Oh, I'm very sorry about that. I had it on like double mute. I'm so sorry. Anyways, thank you very much for that, Open Noms. Actually, we're just going to move on to Fluid Voice. If you could possibly do an introduction about yourself, please, and just explain how you got into this space and what you contribute to the Lightning Node project. Oh, Fluid Voice might be muted. Okay, we can maybe come back to Fluid Voice, and maybe we'll go to BTC Socialist. Okay?
Yeah, well, that's cool. Yeah, we come back to Fluid Voice. I don't mind taking it now. So hi, yep, BC Socialist Ben. I didn't. My first Bitcoin sort of conference event I went to was the Lightning Hack Day in Berlin, and I felt so lucky. It was that first Lightning Hack Day which they had. I felt so lucky. I mean, I've been to a couple of local things, but nothing, substantial. And I felt so lucky to have been within such a small room of people. And I was completely out of place. Like I didn't deserve to be there at all. So there were some of the brightest minds in Bitcoin, and there was this real sort of kind of crazy excitement around Lightning and what was being developed on it. We had like Roast Beef was there, and Christian and Fulmo, and Redemir Taki, and there was just all these sort of interesting, and Staticus as well was there. All these interesting minds in the room, and it was very inspiring. So I kind of thought, well, where can I contribute? I used to be a teacher, so I thought, well, maybe I could do some tutorial-y things and try and help people that way. I really like very, very, very cheap hardware. My idea being that the cheaper the hardware, the more accessible it is to people. I'm kind of the impression with, say, like Internet of Things, for example, it needs to be something which is user-led as opposed to controlled by organizations or corporations and government. So my idea was to try and encourage people to start building sort of IoT type devices, and then getting those to, because obviously with Lightning Network, we've got micropayments and we can do very small payments cheaply and quickly. So the idea was to try and encourage people to like retrofit devices and start building devices which could start sending Lightning payments or generating a Lightning invoice. So my platform, which I've kind of concentrated on, is this little ESP32, and they're like, you can get them like $3-4, or like maybe $5 on eBay. And then from that, I built all sorts of stuff. So I built like so when I went to that first Lightning hack day, those people who made sweep machines, and they had kind of a full noding and running in the sweep machine, and I kind of thought, well, that to me, like the sweep machine should be a slave device. I know it's just more of an experiment, but the sweep machine should be a slave device, and then you'd have your node, and secure in a back office somewhere with all your nice balanced channels and so on. So I made kind of a sweep machine which uses the ESP32, and it works just like a slave device. And then from that, I then just kind of like added a keypad and then created this like little point of sale terminal, which I call the flux capacitor. And then I kind of expanded that a little bit and started playing around with different screens. So this has got like a really substantial battery in it, and it's kind of got a backlit screen, which is pretty cool. I'm working on one at the moment, which is, so a lot of these use OpenNode, which is a really good sort of custodian service where it concatenates Lightning transactions and outputs to a mainnet address. So that my idea being like, how can I get my local coffee shop to accept Bitcoin without having to run nodes and all that sort of stuff and confusing them too much? But I'm building one for Room 77, which is this communicates directly, to the RaspiBlitz. And then I experimented with like some NFC. So I made an NFC, did an NFC payment over Lightning. And then just been playing around with mesh networks. In fact, I don't want to take up too much time because I know we've got a lot of people to get through. But I'll see if I can do like a quick screen share of, let me see if this works. Hopefully everyone can see this. Can everyone see this? We can get a thumbs up. Right there. Yeah, cool. Okay, so if you go to the World Crypto Network and you go to playlists, the World Crypto Network on YouTube, I've done a whole bunch of playlists, a whole bunch of videos experimenting with this like little tiny cheap module and then what it's capable of doing. I had Adam on, and he's developed this thing called the Sploony, and that was the ESP32 being used directly with a node as opposed to OpenNode's API or Strike, async Strike. I was using that for a while too. And then I've also got an interview with Christian on there as well about the RaspiBlitz. And then recently I've been experimenting with mesh networks. I've got a whole load of other tutorials to do, which I'm in the process of making. But obviously with all this sort of hacking stuff, it takes quite a while to build these things. So yeah. So that's about it really. So I'm interested and excited about Lightning Network's ability to be able to send value through Internet of Things, but I want that to be controlled by users, and I want because like I'm not a sort of electronic specialist or a programmer or anything. I'm a woodwork teacher essentially. That's how I started out. So and I was able to kind of get my head around this and start building things. So it's accessible, it's easy. There's loads of support out there and loads of tutorials and videos and forums to help you with this sort of stuff. So I'm just kind of excited, kind of pushing kind of slave devices and the ability to retrofit things like vending machines or arcades or old devices, be able to retrofit them with something which can send and receive Lightning Bitcoin transactions over Lightning Network. So yeah, if you want to check that out, go on the World Crypto Network on the playlists and have a look at the videos. If not, then go on Twitter and look at BTC Socialist and have a chat with me if you want on there.
Mm-hmm. Maybe I want to highlight what I like about the work that is Bannon is contributing is once I really the flux capacitor as a really very, very cheap do-it-yourself point of sale terminal that really solves the problem that when you're at a coffee shop, you don't want to run the RaspiBlitz there, even for security reason, because if somebody breaks in and steals the thing, you lose your funds. So what you can do really is you can have your RaspiBlitz at home, your node, you're running it in a safe environment, and then you put really just this cheap device that costs about 15 euros or dollars or something at the table or at the coffee shop, and people can just create invoices and monitor it, but not spend stuff. So this is, I think, this is just a good example how you can really combine the power of running your own infrastructure, but having kind of safe slave devices that are tied to your infrastructure at your location. So this is really what I like, and all the work that Ben is doing with and I think it's good that he's experimenting there, because that's stuff that you can build and connect to your node. So this is the kind hacker projects that's really cool to see, because they're very physical and people like physical stuff. So that's cool.
Yeah, and as well, you know, you look at you know, traditional infrastructure. You know, so look at traditional payments, and you know, I think as Bitcoiners we're very technical, so we assume that, you know, shops are just going to use their mobile phones and have, you know, point of sale terminals on mobile phones. But the reality is that, you know, a shop owner has a point of sale, you know, a custom built point of sale terminal for taking payments. So that's the sort of legacy system we've got now, and that's the system which, you know, it's a low powered device. You just pick it up, and then, you know, you take a payment. And so I kind of thought that, you know, rather than using expensive or you know, or mobile phones, then it kind of makes sense to actually sort of try and mimic. That's why I started looking at NFC, try and sort of mimic the current payment structure, and then have Lightning, you know, have Bitcoin be able to just replicate it. But yeah, as Christian says, it's all about security as well. Like you can have that Lightning node, you know, securely, not even on premises, securely locked away somewhere, nice and safe. And then yeah, it's you know, someone's not just going to pick it up and walk out with the thing. So
yeah, it's really amazing. I did not know that that's what you were doing. So that's really cool stuff. And of course, I love the name, being a child of the '80s. So, you know, having to do with Back to the Future. But okay, let me see if we can get fluid voice. Is your mic working now? I don't know. We might not. I don't know if somebody else can hear him, but I can't hear him. No. Okay, sorry, fluid voice. We're gonna get back to you, but we're gonna move on to Rootsall. If you could please give maybe a little bit of your you know, your backstory, and of course, you know, as to me anyways, I don't know who created the RaspiBlitz with you, but you know, to me, I associate that device with you. So please tell me about it and how you got into taking on this task, because I just don't see it as being easy.
Thank you. Yeah, so yes, I think I am the lead developer on the project, so to say. And it all started at the Hack Days we were doing in Berlin. It was last year. It was after the kind of price hype we were seeing in Bitcoin, and we were really seeing that the blockchain was full, and we had really the pain of searching for a scaling solution. And Lightning Network, or Lightning, the idea was around and people were working on it. But then we were hearing more and more that it's getting really something you can use. We were seeing the first prototype of beta with a small button where you can pay at the Chaos Communication Congress, and we were saying, come on, this seems to get real now. Let's investigate how far we can push this technology. And then we did the Hack Days in Berlin, small events where we just were interested to gather the community together, to really explore together, exchange on the topic. And very quickly it was clear we need practice on this, and building your own node was kind of the way to go. And we wanted to start small, so the idea was that let's build something on a Raspberry Pi, and there was finding the tutorial from Steadicus, how do you build your Lightning node on a Raspberry Pi. And we were trying this on the first Hack Day with people, and very quickly kind of seeing it's a good tutorial, but it takes time because it's a manual tutorial where you have to go through step by step, do all the stuff manual on your Linux command line. And this has taken a little bit too much time to do it in a kind of event, in a kind of a workshop environment. So the first idea about the RaspiBlitz was just to take the tutorial from Steadicus and put it into scripts and add a little bit more automation to it to set up your node on a Raspberry Pi. And we tried this out on the second Hack Day, and more people liked the idea because it was also open on GitHub. People started to experiment at home with it, so it kind of step by step developed to the point where it is not right now. And I was kind of lucky over the last years that I can spend some time on the project, step by step, getting the contributions from people, adding those to it, and putting it more and more into a kind of self project. That's what you see now with the RaspiBlitz. So, and I'm kind of really happy that this community idea that we had in the idea from the beginning, that it is something we want to do together. This kind of happening right here, right now, that we see so much people got interest into the project, committed from different angles to it, and so I'm very glad to see it gone to that kind of place.
It's totally incredible, and thank you so much. I definitely I love the product. I have 4 of them that I've set up, and I'm actually downloading the blockchain right now. I'm testing it with an SSD drive this time because I want to get faster. Obviously, I want it to verify faster, but thank you. Okay, so we're gonna move on here to I believe it's Rami 75. Is that correct, or is it yes?
Well, it's actually Raumi. That's
Raumi. Okay, sorry, but thank
No
you so
problem.
much. If you could please let us know, tell us how you contribute to the project and how you got into this space.
Yeah. When you said this is like such a great group and everything, I feel like the imposter in here because I haven't done that much to this project. What I have done is I've taken a look at it, and I found it a little painful to set up the phone clients and displaying the QR code in the terminal window. And I thought, well, this thing has this wonderful LCD display, and most users have it. So I have a hardware target that I can take a look at. And I found this little binary that's no problem to set up that can display a PNG file on the LCD. So what I did was that when you set up your phone client, then it will display the QR code on the LCD. And I believe that made it into the 1.2 release. Yep. So I'm happy to contribute that way. What is kind of unfinished and a little brainchild, and I don't know if we get it together with Frankie maybe. I found out that it's rather easy to create an HTML file that can be displayed on the LCD too, because we can run a browser like Epiphany or Chromium on an X server that has no window manager. So we don't need the touch display, and it will just display the HTML page instead of the regular text interface that you have now. But I kind of abandoned it because some people correctly said it takes up a little RAM. And we need all the power to really run the RaspiBlitz and the Lightning stuff. So I'm not really sure if this is dragging down the whole thing. It doesn't take that much power away from it, but after all, we don't have that much hardware. So I'm not really sure if we should contribute to that. And what I have done is something rather crazy, because I used the bash script to create an HTML file. So people that hate really bad PHP code, just take a look at my bash script. This is a lot worse, So, but Frankie has started something that we might be able to build on, because he started doing the whole thing in Python, and I think maybe we can build on that if the community wants to continue that, and if we want to run a browser on here, because that's probably something for Christian to decide. Yeah, I said you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this is really why I invited you to join this talk, because this is the small stuff, because there's so much little things on the RaspiBlitz that can be improved. It's not perfect, but there's a lot of stuff we have in there that can be done. And the LCD display is one thing that showed very important to a lot of people, because it's a kind of, first off, it communicates, the machine can communicate something to you, but there's also the touch on there, and we can use it so that you can do some small actions on the device. But even just to work on that is a lot of detailed work, and I'm not it's all the stuff I have would have investigate myself. So I'm very gladful if somebody has some experience or seeing something that could fit and tries it out and builds some kind of a prototype and then just showed and gain experience with it and then share back on the GitHub and report to it. So maybe you can, a little bit for the people maybe that are seeing this right now and thinking, oh, I also have an idea. Can you maybe describe the process, how you just get involved? How do you contribute back something? How do you make communications? Just a little bit how, if somebody wants to improve a little bit, how to get started there.
I think GitHub is perfect for that, especially when you want to contribute just a little bit. People can just go on GitHub, and if they find a typo in your documentation, they can just correct it. It's really easy. And when you have like a little bash script or something that I did, I just forked the repository. And I worked on that fork, and I sent you a pull request, and you looked over it, and it was nice communicating over that channel. And also, to get my point across, I made a little short video of a few seconds, and I posted that on Twitter, so people can give a feedback for that, and people seem to like it, which was really motivating for me because I didn't know if I made something that's just for me. And when you see there's plenty of people who like that and to give me a thumbs up, that's really motivating, and that keeps you going. Yeah. So I think many people can just contribute that. And I think that's really important on all the open source projects. I mean, there's the big contributors like yourself, Christian, who do 90% of the work. And then there's the little workers here who just want to contribute small stuff. And that's really easy on open source. And I think GitHub is the right place for that.
Perfect.
Maybe I can quickly jump in.
Sure.
I've been tinkering about the same stuff, like exposing web services and building websites for nodes. And it's a little bit a different setting. But one thing I came across which could be interesting is to run Chromium in a headless version. You can actually run Chromium in the backend and make it scripted to create PNG files. And you can, as it was a standard browser, and write them directly to the frame buffer. So not a touch solution, but if you want to have like fancy displays from HTML, you can then run it with very low capacity.
Yes, but you would run a browser too to display the
it's a headless Chromium. It's a special Chromium version.
Okay.
It does not have any visual output. It runs purely in the background, and it can create PNG files from time to time.
And you just use the frame buffer viewer to display that image. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I see.
Just an idea.
Yeah, I've tried that one too. Something like that. I will look into that a little more. Maybe we can make something that's more efficient, because I think that's the main point. Not wasting energy on something that people might never look at because they have it in their closet somewhere, hidden away. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I like seeing that screen, and I think it's pretty cool. And I do have one in the basement, but I also have one right next to me here, next to the TV. So I don't think it totally gets wasted, but I definitely understand the point of, you know, we're trying to run a node and we're trying to use everything efficiently. But I wanted to go back with what you started, and believe me, if there's anybody who's the imposter in this room, I'm the only one who doesn't know how to actually create anything. I simply take what you guys do and put it together and then use it. So I'm like the technical user, so don't feel bad. I think it's beautiful that you can contribute in this way, and I think it's awesome. Without every one of you guys putting your pieces in, this wouldn't exist. You know, like that's just the reality of it. So, but okay, so we'll move on here to the person that's making our shells, like not just coding sexy, you know, but the box is sexy. So Rick,
hey,
you want to tell us what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got into Bitcoin probably 2017-ish too, after hearing about it a couple years ago. And my hobby always used to be custom designing PC cases, and I would enter competitions with that and whatnot. And then after getting into Bitcoin and I struggled with the RaspiBolts, no offense, Staticus. I tried so many times to try to get that, and thank God Christian made automated scripts because I struggled so much with that. But I redeemed myself after getting the RaspiBlitz up. I tried the RaspiBolts again after learning some coding here and there, and I got that up. So awesome work for both of you guys. I got them both running. But then after I got that, I kind of wanted to design something for it because I wanted mine to look good since it sits down by my gaming computer. So then I decided, well, why not? Why don't I design a case for it? And it all kind of stemmed from right when I entered, I had hardware wallets that I wanted to hide in secret places. And I didn't want them just on like my ledger sitting on my desk. So I built a mount and people really liked that idea. So I was like, well, I'll just start a business and see if it ever works out. Kind of built from there. And then your guys' RaspiBlitz and RaspiBolts projects, I was like, well, I want to make mine look awesome. I made one, and then everybody else was like, well, that's really cool. How do I get one? And I was like, well, there we go. There, I'll just start building them. So that's really how I got into it. And I know everybody says, oh, I don't really contribute anything for if you don't do like coding or whatnot, but I agree that there is so much more to contribute to projects based on just coding. None of you guys said that or anything. It's just, I think people feel that way. If they don't code, they don't contribute, but there's so many different ways to contribute to different things like teaching classes, designing stuff, coding, all that stuff. So that's really how I got into the RaspiBlitz. And every now and then, if I run into a problem, I message Christian, I message Fulmo, start battling through problems. And I think I finally submitted something on GitHub, which was rare for me, a little issue and a problem. So that was pretty awesome. So it's just slowly building steps. And I think for tinkers and everybody that kind of wants to start building their own nodes, I think RaspiBlitz or one of these RaspiBolt projects is the way to go and get your hands dirty in it.
Cool. Thank you very much. And I totally agree, especially about your statement that even if you don't write code, you know, you can still contribute to the project. To your point, you know, I do a podcast and try to get the information out there, and at the very least, right, you know, and every little bit helps. So I truly agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the 3D printing community is, I didn't know it was so big into this space. Honestly, I thought I was kind of on the sideline, but now I'm starting to see a lot more 3D printers are in the same identical space. So I think it's time that I do create a simple open source product that people can design. I'll put it on the website. I know everybody keeps asking me for it. So I think it's finally time that I take a little bit of time, do an open source project, a simple case for the RaspiBlitz that everybody can download. And I'll start doing that because I didn't realize the 3D printing community was this big.
Oh, wow.
With this whole deal. So I think I'm going to start working on that.
That's awesome. That is definitely awesome. And thank you. I'm inspired to get a 3D printer, but as I told you, I'm probably not the best person at creating. So
everyone's got to learn somewhere.
That's right. Okay, so moving on, I believe we have is it Frankie? If I don't know if you want to come on and talk about the contributions that you've done to this project. I don't believe that you and I have spoken very much, but if you could just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, how you got into this, and how you contribute to the project.
Absolutely, sure. You hear me okay?
Absolutely. Does everybody else hear him?
Yeah, I got some thumbs up. Yeah, thanks for inviting me here and having me join this interesting discussion. Yeah, how did I come to this? Basically, I think I met Christian, so Rutzol, at the camp 4 years ago, 2015. We met and talked and lost contact, and we met again 2017 at the Congress, Case Computer Congress, and there was the early sparks kind of Lightning going on. I think there was a first demo of some code that was doing something or so. It was really interesting. We had a long talk and so on. And now during that year, so much has happened for implementations, the different implementations for Lightning. Yeah, and 2018, we connected again. And I was at the Bitcoin table for a while. So I met some of the other guys here, I think, that are in the Hangout. It's really great talking to you all, different discussions. That's just how I got invited, I think. Also, yeah, what do I do? I just wrote a few notes down. There were a lot of points came up already. So basically, I'm not so much a hardware guy, so it's more a little bit of software doing, and I had a few issues. For example, there was one thing was the NAT thing. I have a DSL and changing IP addresses and NAT, and I think there's still this restarting your Lightning node every day if you change your IP address. And there I worked a little bit on the I submitted a pull request to LND, which was merged recently to better detect nuts and so on. That was one thing I worked on, and I have two other big points I'm interested in. One is the kind of having something like a backend service, something like a daemon running that kind of gathers different data. You have the Bitcoin daemon, we have the Lightning daemon, and we have other system information. And I was kind of thinking about how could we kind of glue all these APIs together into one API where we could just do all this, some of the requests to the REST API. If you have a load on your Raspberry, they take maybe 50 seconds or longer. And kind of having this data in a cached way, you could still synchronously access them. So that was one idea. I started looking in with Python and using threads, which was not the best idea, I think. So I was starting maybe looking into maybe doing this in Go, for example, but I'm not sure. And I've not spent so much time on this recently. Maybe there are some ideas later. What I also was starting and looking is I saw Raumi's really nice HTML, CSS, or whatever I think is. There's no JavaScript, I think. I really liked it. Like having the same information that the LCD is currently showing in a browser, which is useful for accessing it from somewhere else. It's like an alternative to the RTL, I guess. And then the last thing I was looking into was kind of making use of this touch screen, right? so I sometimes I would like to kind of turn off or turn to black or maybe shut down the device. And for this, I think one button or maybe 2 or 3 or 4 might be cool to have. And so all I did was I'm using Python and just I installed a display manager, right? So I'm not sure how resource intensive that is. So just use the default kind of Raspberry installation with the, I think it's not sure which. Sorry, I forgot. But basically, I'm running the display manager, and I'm starting an X, and there I just display a small window which just opens an X term. So basically, you have on the left side you have 4 buttons, and the rest of the screen is just showing the normal intro script. So that's actually not too bad. I posted a link to this in one of the GitHub issues. Maybe I could paste that again, so you can just have a quick view of all that. Maybe any questions for that? Or any ideas?
Maybe jump in here. I really appreciate, because at the moment, just to clarify, the RaspiBlitz is running it's running a lot of scripts, bash scripts, and a lot of bash scripts run in a loop. For example, the information that you see on the LCD display is kind of always gathered every kind of 20 seconds, 5 seconds, depends a little bit on which state it is. And this is not very clever, resourceful thing, because it's a heavy load every second. Some commands take a little time and put a little stress on the rest of the system. So what Frankie started to look into is really something that makes more sense in a multiple ways, because having really some kind of daemon that starts to collect from the system also some information and collects all this information that you need to display stuff on the display, but also that you can then use to have a web UI that you can use through your browser maybe instead of SSH to get information a little bit more about your RaspiBlitz. Or even if you want to change the LCD against the e-paper in the future, the e-paper would also need some kind of source where it gets this information. And we can see that we need this in multiple places around the RaspiBlitz. So this is very cool that there is the idea of building such a daemon. And I think, Frankie, you already put some in this issue, already saw some schematics, how we can optimize the structure then for the multiple services, etc. So again, I have to say, it maybe takes some version numbers before we can get to this stage, but it's good that somebody already is exploring this area, and there maybe where we can fit this together with some with other issues we have on LCD and touch, so that we already have experience, and then we can decide on where we want to go after more kind of precious or more immediate things have to go because of stability. So just wanted to add that. So thank you very much for that. So.
No, that's actually fantastic. Because that's actually one of the questions that we got. More than one person asked and wanted to know when touchscreen. So it's good that somebody's working on that. Sorry, you were going to say something?
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. I just posted a link to the display service issue. I haven't found the issue where I posted this video, but maybe I find this later and we'll post it also. Yeah, in the end, it's kind of we have to kind of decide what we want, right? So what's the benefit of doing this? And what's a good way to approach this? Basically, at the moment, it's a shell script, and I think Christian is putting huge effort into building these shell scripts. Really cool. I didn't know many of the things that are possible with just those Bash or Linux stuff. It's nice. Yeah, but enabling the touch without having a display manager and a GUI, I think is not possible. I haven't found a solution for that. So basically, the approach would be to install the display manager and to develop a GUI, and that there are several different options how to develop a GUI. I used Python just wrapper in my demo, and yeah, I'm not so much a designer, so maybe some people have ideas of what should be there, what are the features, what is the outlook. I don't think it should be a fully managing every aspect of RaspiBlitz, not with lots of menus and so on. It would just be the basic information, I think. Maybe the QR code would be interesting, turning off, and so on. It's interesting, maybe switching between one or two things, or on-demand generating an invoice might also be nice, but I'm not sure. That's like 3 or 4 things that I think make sense.
Cool. I'm excited to see what what you guys are going to do with this. I think it's awesome. So thank you very much, and thank you for joining us as well. So moving on, I'm going to introduce Staticus. So Staticus, I actually started. Yours was the first node, the first one that I built, and it taught me many things. It taught me that I definitely am not really meant to write any code, and really it truly helped me get back into it, because I used to really be into like more like gray hat hacking back in like the mid 90s and stuff like that, and I had kind of stepped away from that, and actually reading your project is what got me back into this and deciding, you know what, I'm gonna build one of these things. So
cool.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your contribution. It's been huge. And if you can please just share with us what you've done and what you're doing.
Yeah, sure. I'm glad to. Thanks. This is very nice feedback. And this is what I constantly love about getting feedback from the community, that by basically documenting my own learnings in a somewhat concise way, I enabled other people's to learn that as well. And I think that's, on Twitter, many people ask, how should I go and like build or run my node? And I guess the RaspiBolt is more about the journey. It's more about learning. It's not getting it up easily and quickly. So if you really want to understand the inner workings of how a full node setup works, I guess it's still a very good option. But of course, Rootsol really has taken the lead now, implementing new features with an awesome community to get to enable people that are not very comfortable on the command line to also have their full nodes running on a cheap Raspberry Pi, which is really awesome, and I love the project. And I guess at the other end of the spectrum is maybe Pierre Rochard's node launcher, where you just use your existing hardware and run it in the background. So there's a full spectrum out there, and I think depending on what you want to achieve, how much time you have, on what you're interested in, one or the other is the best option. For me, personally, I started some years ago by just running Bitcoin nodes. for me, it was like obvious from the beginning that even when I bought my first ledger, I really don't want Ledger to know my transactions. So financial sovereignty is very essential for me. If you run, you have to be in full control of your private keys. But it's not the full picture, right? So you really also need to be able in broadcast your own transactions, and you should not trust another third party to tell you the truth about the blockchain. I really want to be directly connected to other peers and run that on my own node. So this is where I started. It's obviously not that easy with Bitcoin Core. Then I ran Electrum X servers on top of that, just to be able to use it with hardware wallets. And then I guess Lightning came along. I'm not really that much of a technician or a programmer, so it's probably too late for me to do any useful contributions to the Bitcoin Core project. But it was extremely early for Lightning, and with even modest know-how, you could have quite some impact, and I really loved that. So I started building my nodes. I've been using Raspberry Pis for a long time, and I started documenting. I think I published somewhere the end of 2017 or early 2018, at least before mainnet. I documented it on Medium, how I actually built my node. And I got a lot of feedback, a lot of questions. I did a lot of stuff on Reddit, and then I moved it over to GitHub to have a proper forum to be able to keep track on issues, to build a knowledge base. And I guess it shows that it's not, I think it's a good guide, but people are really struggling sometimes, because even just jumping over one sentence can make the difference, or not clearly understanding it. So I just checked before. I think we're almost have closed 300 issues on GitHub, more major and minor nicks that people asked. So it's quite intense to keep up with all the issues and provide answers. Then moving on, I love the Raspberry Pi platform, but I think it has its limitations, especially regarding the initial block download. And although I have I run the Electrum personal server myself, I think it has, from a UX perspective, it's not that optimal if you need to rescan the blockchain for every new public key that you have. So I just had the need to be able to run more on the platform. This is why I started experimenting with Odroids. I created the Thumbdroid guide, which is a cheap knockoff of the Raspberry Pi guide, but with more powerful hardware. Yeah, and I guess in search for the perfect node, I think it was during summer 2018, Rootsol, SauBK, myself, we actually started collaborating more closely, thinking about how we could build something together. But at the time, I was still working at PwC. I'm coming from a consulting background with Accenture and stuff like that. Just as a hobbyist, it just wasn't possible. I had almost like a mini burnout and had to take a break from Twitter, and it was just too much. My goals were probably just too high, and I had to stop for some time. And then I decided during a meeting, an offline meeting, that I probably just have to quit my job. And then I quit with PwC, which is for a stable and well-paid job during the bear market, and was super happy and super honored that I could start with Shift Crypto Security, which is an awesome company, also founded by Jonas Schnelli and other great guys that are more of a hardware company. They're building hardware wallets. And I'm building now, I guess, something that I had in mind for a long time there, just like the best possible node that I can imagine. It's some kind of a bit of a switch. I really think that the cheap, low-level nodes are super important, but at the moment I'm experimenting more with like not really caring about the price. So we're really building. It's called the Bitbox base. Bitbox is the hardware wallet. We're building the node for the hardware wallets, but it's completely open source. And of course, we're looking at the price, but it's not going to be a super cheap node at the beginning, but we can probably bring the price down later on. And yeah, I think for me it's super important that we already open sourced everything. Although I'm just working at it for 1 month, so it's nowhere finished. We just started, but we put everything out there. It's open source. You can look at the code, and we really plan to build this fully in the open, and also not like a company that wants to lock in. It should be possible for people to buy their own hardware and run it just on their own nodes without paying anything. So this is what I really like about this approach.
That's really incredible. Sorry, Rootsal, go ahead.
Yeah, I just saw the plans or what you outlined about the box, and as far as I see, it's based on C-Lightning and on Ambien. So and I think it will be also have a web UI to talk to. Is that correct?
We decided to do a few things differently. So besides using like more powerful hardware, the Rock Pro 64, we also think that not having a web interface is good for security. So we really try to avoid the whole web stack, which has a lot of dependencies that we cannot control. It works mainly with the Bitbox app, which is also open source and does not need you to buy anything. You can just download it and use it. So we'll have more of an app that talks to the Bitbox base, but lets you just manage it in a more trusted environment, because everything in between is like end-to-end encrypted. We're going to be using the noise protocol framework to encrypt the whole communication, and it gives us just more options regarding networking, because I think the networking is one of the huge unsolved problems at the moment. Maybe I can outline the 3 things we'd like to do, because there is not really one option that is perfect. So if you set up your node, you have the app running, and it just automatically detects, oh, there's a node. This works with zeroconf, MDNS, and it just lets you confirm on a display that you are who you are and who you claim, and establish a secure connection, and that's about it. So this works in a local network. The second option is to have a completely open Tor connection, just providing like Tor onion services. By the way, the whole Bitbox base will by default run completely over Tor only.
Nice.
And so this lets you initiate external connections from every device that already runs Tor, like your laptop or your Android phone, but that's sometimes an issue. And this is why we are also going to provide a more centralized service, but it's zero knowledge, so that we will provide like a reverse proxy server run by Shift, where the node can connect through Tor, so we don't know who that is. We don't know where it is, but we will provide a clearnet address on just routing through. So you can use it without installing Tor by connecting to our own like centralized proxy, and we will just route through to your own node without knowing who you are, and the whole connection also will be completely end-to-end encrypted. And this is important because we are basically a man in the middle. We don't want to know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So the app to the Bitbox base is encrypting all the communication.
Can I ask you, will the part of the proxy also be open source, or is the
Yes.
open source just the okay, cool? Because in the end, the RaspiBlitz has the kind of same problem set up, because how do you go around your NUT and all those things, how you can address your node. So it would be very interesting to take a look at the service you are building there, and then maybe have it in an easy to set up way for anybody who wants to offer that kind of service also for the RaspiBlitz, and have it in the same kind of way. So at least that outside apps can maybe like the Zap app and all the what people at the moment connect to the RaspiBlitz, that those services can more easily connect from the outside and in a secure way. And if anybody's open to set up such a service, I think, yeah, it's a kind of central server somewhere, but at least if it's open source and anybody can set up, you can set up for yourself on your own server, or you use it from somebody else. Maybe even there's a small payment with Lightning. Not sure. Is there any kind of...
That's a nice idea.
Yeah, do you? It's just a question. So I think on your end, because it's together with a company, it's more like it will be part of the deal. When you buy the box, you get the service for free, right?
Yes, I think this is probably the main challenge. We are building it so like in a cannot be evil way, that it's actually a challenge to verify that you actually have a box. So obviously we don't want to serve the whole internet.
Yeah.
We somehow need to make sure that we are basically serving our paying customers. But the proxy will be open source. Anybody can take it and run it themselves, or fork it and use it for other projects. This is, I think, very important to us. And this is also what makes me very comfortable working on a company project like that.
Yeah, maybe one question again. Do you see any other areas where the projects can benefit from each other? Of course, we will not be able to do all this kind of setup. I think there will be differences in how you will do it, but maybe for example, as with the proxy server, some single setups that you can maybe combine here and there. And I already want to patch this up to BlueCell, to OpenMS, because you also have some experience running the RaspiBlitz on other hardware, and maybe with Ambien, can you also kind of see that we can use if something is built on Ambien from Statica's project? Is this something we can use also in the future, maybe Ambien as a base, to have more compatibility there to reuse it?
Yeah, so, yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so Ambien is the only, it's great, I think. The only thing is there is no Ambien for Raspberry Pi, right? So because the Raspbian is based on the ThreadX operating system, which is not open source, so it cannot be put into basically not compatible with the Ambien kind of Linux distro. So, but other than that, I think Ambien is also very compatible with Debian. And then what I've found, that there is very minimal changes between Debian and Ubuntu, which kind of runs on everything. And that's what is usually provided as a default by the Odroid manufacturer, by the Rock Pro guys, which is Pine 64, which is the Rock Pro 64, or the Rock 64, which is the same thing. And then also you have obviously have it available for PC and BIOS UEFI. So I think it is easy to keep it compatible between Ambien and Ubuntu, as well as Raspbian, until we are based on the Raspberry Pi by default. So I think that works.
Okay. I mean, for us, it was more the reason why we decided to go with Ambien is because you can build it somewhat from source. There are some binary blobs, but you can build it from source directly and automate this build process in a way that you can create an image directly, including the bootloader and everything that you can just directly flash onto an eMMC or SD card. So there's, at the moment we have, if you build like our setup, you will get an image of about 2 gigabytes or whatever. You put it on the eMMC, you boot it up, and it starts syncing over Tor directly. There's no setup or anything that you need to take care. Even the SSD is formatted on first boot. So this is something that we really wanted to achieve, not having like manual configuration or very complex scripts in the beginning when you boot the device that can break. And it was also a conscious decision to not like Dockerize all the different services and do like more like the BTC Pay approach, where you have all the stuff running in Docker images and then update them individually. We're thinking more about like having as a networked appliance. So you do like an update is always like you do, it's always like the full image. You do like atomic updates, and what we would like to achieve, and could be interesting for the RaspiBlitz as well. We're not there yet, but we are experimenting with atomic upgrades, where you have a dual root file system, like 2 partitions. One is active and you're running it, and you have like a service that streams the upgrade to the other partition, which is not active. And after that you reboot, and it boots the other partition. And if it's successful, it's committed or confirmed, and that this is now your updated system. But if it fails, you just boot again and it falls back to the old one. So you really have like a fail-safe upgrading mechanism that you are basically not able to brick a device during the update if you have a power loss or anything like that. So this is why we actually wanted to have something that is not like running in Docker containers, where you can very quickly have like problems with different versions of all the containers.
That would be amazing, by the way. The separate partition, that's genius. Like seriously, because one of the biggest issues, and we're going to get into it as part of the Q&A, but one of the biggest issues is the redundancy aspect. You know, people do want to know how to make their nodes redundant, and of course, as you could imagine, the less technical people want to make it a little bit easier. So I'm actually gonna ask about that a little bit later on, but that's amazing. And I do have a question about Docker after. So somebody did ask. Cool. Somebody asked about that. So okay.
Maybe one. May I just add one?
Oh yeah.
Last thing.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's also the Casa node, which is also running on a Raspberry Pi. And from what I understand, with Jameson Lopp having a very good talk about that just a few weeks ago, the main problem they have is that people are not able to revalidate the blockchain themselves if it gets corrupted. This is a huge pain. And by using more powerful hardware, we are actually able to sync the full node from Genesis with validation over Tor in under 2 days. So this is really cool. You never need to download anything from an FTP server again. We actually on setup, we will ship pre-synced, but we will, as the best option, present the user to just wipe the SSD and revalidate anything, because you can do it under 2 days. So this is, I think, pretty important.
I'm excited to get a Bitbox. I'll tell you that much. I love all these things, so I'd like to have one of each. I just enjoy tinkering, so yeah, I'm definitely going to be looking out for it. That's awesome. Thank you so much for explaining that.
Sure.
Yeah, just to make sure this. I don't want to convert everybody to the Bitbox.
No. I love them all.
So I think to the philosophy on the Raspberry Blitz is a little bit like we stay on the as the minimal hardware it should function is the Raspberry Pi, and maybe when there is some Raspberry Pi 4 coming out, maybe this is a device that maybe then can handle even self-validation on the blockchain more easily. So we let the time play here a little bit. On the other side, so with the Raspberry Blitz, there is the option now where we try to make it easy that you can validate your blockchain yourself on your laptop, and then you can copy it over. So I think this is a little bit more complicated, but in the end, if you want to go this way, having self-validating things and not trusting the torrent download, I think that's a way, at least for the moment, we can do until the device, the standard Raspberry device, is good enough to work with this on itself. So yeah, more powerful hardware is cool, and I really like to see how we can maybe in the future even see how we can port the Raspberry Blitz like a system even to support more diverse hardware, so that you can, if you choose to start with a more powerful hardware, that you can also move over there. So okay, so we will switch now, or Staticus, anything else to add?
No, I just want to close by definitely. I don't want to like come off of the guy that just shilling his own product. I really love the Raspberry Pis, and I love the products. I love the projects, and I'm still maintaining my RaspiBolt guide. So that's for that.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. In no way is this meant to, you know what I mean? We're just discussing the tech, and like I said, I mean, I love all of it. I have a Casanode. You know what I mean? I have a RaspiBolt. I have a RaspiBlitz. I know that there's, you know, I know that there's a whole bunch of other nodes out there, and I'd love to run them all. Like, I think they're all cool, and it's part of being an enthusiast. So, you know, thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to move on right now to, I actually met Selby because of his account, the Ride the Lightning account, and I didn't realize that you were the one responsible for that web interface. And I know I don't want to detract and talk about the security issues, because as IT we know what the web introduces. But I love the web interface. I think it's really cool, and honestly, in terms of the user experience, I mean I love the interface through SSH, but the user interface for the Ride the Lightning is really sleek. It's easy to understand. So, you know, if you could, Selby, thank you so much for joining us, and if you could please just you know, share with us your story and tell us how you ended up developing this interface.
Sure. So I'll not take more time. I think let's keep more time for questions and answers, right? So, and the discussion. So just a quick introduction, right? So I started in Bitcoin. Maybe I may be actually the youngest, you know, quote unquote, in the Bitcoin space in this crowd. I started somewhere around reading about Bitcoin in detail in September 2017, and I bought my first Bitcoin in October 2017. So I'm like pretty young, you know, as far as knowing Bitcoin is concerned. But I found it so compelling that I decided to peel the layers of the onion, right? And started digging deeper and deeper. In terms of what I like to do in my free time, I like to tinker with hardware, and I was pretty fascinated with mining to begin with, right? So initially, my fascination was entirely around mining. So I'll be very honest here. I started with shitcoin mining a lot. Right, so I've mined many shitcoins, right? But in my journey in this last 1.5 years or so, I have kind of gone through a whole journey of, you know, learning about Bitcoin, then getting distracted by shitcoin, then I'm finally coming back to Bitcoin, right? So this whole journey I've been through in a very small time frame, and now I'm you can call me a maximalist. I am like committed to Bitcoin. I believe only in Bitcoin. I don't believe in any other you know, coins. So so in terms of the journey, I started mining initially. Then when I read about Lightning, and this was somewhere around end of 2017, then the kind of, you know, the quote unquote, the moment when a bulb goes in your mind, right? That, you know, this is how Bitcoin can be digital gold, right? As a layer for settlement, makes it the case for digital gold. And that's when I was convinced that I have to completely focus on Bitcoin and not distract myself with anything else. And then I started reading more and more about Lightning, and then I came across Staticus's guide, of course, and started started setting up my node. And I found the guide very useful and very straightforward, and I was able to successfully set up my own node. And I actually went on mainnet straight away in April 2018. And my node has been live since. So I've been running the same node since April 2018, Raspberry Pi. And when I started interacting with Lightning, that's when I realized that, operating command line, there's so much information. When you're operating a Lightning node, there's so much information that you have to keep track of. And it's not, the command line is not going to be the way to manage the node. There are so many parameters to keep track of. And that's when I thought about, writing an app. And that's when Shana, who's actually an experienced web developer, she was looking for some sort of a project which can be a side gig for her. And that's when we started collaborating, and I started sharing my ideas on what we need to build, what type of interface we need to build, and she was the developer who actually did the coding. And I designed the product, conceptualized the functionality, and I set up the test node and infrastructure for her, and she actually does the whole development. So she's the development muscle. I'm more of a product manager, quote unquote, who's helping her design the functionality, basically. So that's it's been 1.5 years, and the project has taken a life of its own. We were never anticipating it'll gain this much traction. At this point, we are, of course, we are in RaspiBlitz. We were the first project to RaspiBlitz was the first project for us to kind of collaborate on. Now we are also on Nodal. We are also integrated with BTCP server. So these are, and all of these projects kind of give us so many issues, so many inputs that it keeps us busy like crazy. So that's the journey so far on Ride the Lightning.
Very cool. Thank you so much. That's absolutely fantastic. I didn't realize that you were also integrated with the utility nodes like Nodal. So that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Cool. So okay, we're gonna try Fluid Voice again before we get into the Q&A. So Fluid, you want to give it a shot?
Is it working?
Nice. All right. Very cool.
Okay. So yeah, I was gonna say I'd have to change my name. My voice hasn't been so fluid today.
But I'd like to give a bit of an introduction, at least from my experience with you, because my first experience with you was you responding to me on on an issue that I had with the RaspiBlitz, and I really it's like I really appreciated your help. You pointed me in the right direction. You gave me the right information, and I just found that, your support was really incredible. So I'm sure that you do way more for the project than just that, but I just wanted to let you know. I really appreciated it. So
no problem.
Please let us know, how you tumbled down the rabbit hole and what got you into working on the Blitz.
Oh boy, that's a long story. I'll try to make it short. Well, so you guys probably have heard a lot about this rabbit hole thing. Like, I first heard about Bitcoin in 2013, although I didn't do anything. I ignored it for another couple of years. And then I didn't actually even buy my first Bitcoin until 2015. And I think that was because I watched videos of Andreas Antonopoulos like everybody else did. And, that sort of started me down that path. And then I'm sort of a semi-retired guy from Silicon Valley. And, but I like technology. I'm involved in technology, and I've been playing around in the Bitcoin crypto space, not really doing any programming per se, but, just doing stuff like I played around with running Monero node and, things like that. But I always sort of was watching it and hoping and thinking, how can I help? How can I make this stuff easier to use and, that sort of thing. And I mean, I hadn't even like seen a Raspberry Pi until December. So, but what it was I also have some interest in the IoT realm, and there were some projects and some stuff that runs in the IoT space that runs on a Raspberry Pi, and so that sort of got me interested in that. And then when I somehow ran across the RaspiBlitz project, then I thought, okay, well, it's time that I try this. So I got a Pi, and I started playing around with that was like in December, January. And, I mean, the Pi is great. You can do a lot for such a little device and, low power, but it also has obviously limitations, right? So, I mean, it's sort of like OpenOMS. You realize this, like, and Kristen, you're probably wondering, like, what's the interest in the ARM86? That's probably a question you have, right? So yeah, one of the things was I started to realize that to combine some of the IoT, like the kind of stuff that I'm interested in running perhaps on top, in addition to a node, it's just 1 gigabyte of RAM is difficult, right? So so that was sort of like what got me interested in looking at some of the, I'm not like gonna abandon the Pi, of course, but it would be nice if they came out with a new one, like a Pi 4 or something with a little bit more resources. And I think OpenOM, that's why you're looking at other boards as well, right? Other SBCs. Yeah. So.
Well, that's really awesome. And actually, I do have a question about some future development that is coming up. But OpenOMS, if you want to respond.
Yes, well, no, I completely agree with this. I mean, it's very constrained, with 1 megabyte of RAM. I think it's the 1 gigabyte actually. What is important is to keep the compatibility with the minimal entry-level hardware, and then we can have advanced options and step up as much as we can. Really, I think. It would be nice to find the cheapest hardware which can do everything we want it to do, right? So, yeah, we'll see what we settle at. I think even 2 gigabytes is quite a big step. It's straight to doubling, so, and that's not very far off. We have in the similar price category, but obviously. The infrastructure which is behind the Raspberry Pi, with cases, with all the accessories, is just not comparable to anything. And also, regarding a new generation, I think I've read somewhere that they are not planning to come up with a new version until 2020. So we have some time to tinker until then.
Well, actually, we can probably get started with the Q&A right away. Unless, Brad, is there anything else you want to add to your story?
No, I don't think so. I mean, again, this IoT stuff, it ran on like Debian base and on the Pi, and OpenOMS. You realize the same. Distributions can be used for this stuff. Kristen, you probably saw also on Twitter how it was kind of, when I discovered this Atomic Pi, it was an interesting thing because it's a low-cost SBC that's x86, and I mean, basically, I guess if I was to add anything, it would be that like the Pi is fine for end users to run the full nodes. And with LN on top, but I think for developers it's a little bit difficult because if you want to build stuff on top, right? So and I presume in the future there'll be more, APIs and stuff developed on top of Lightning, and it just becomes Well, in helping out a lot of people with problems on the RaspiBlitz, I sort of got a little bit frustrated because there's so many problems that are hit, right? It could be power supply, it could be what else? I guess power supply is one of the main ones, right? But
I'd say it's almost the only one, I swear. I can't tell you how many issues, how many errors appear, and you think, oh, there's something wrong with the disk, or there's something wrong with the memory, or there's actually something missing, but there's nothing missing. It's just a power supply issue.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I don't know, it got frustrating for me. I'm like, oh, there's too much time being taken on dealing with just issues that seem specific to the Pi. And, you know, like I said, if you just want to be an end user, and it can run the node perfectly fine, but it seems like for developers, you would want to use something else. Like, you know, I have it running on with the virtual machine, and you know, this is much faster to do things. But
there's,
I don't know.
In working with developers, and of course not on this particular project, but in my real life, from what I've understood, developers always want more memory, more CPU, and more resources. It's like the easiest way, and I can't imagine the difficulty it must be to work on these platforms, to constantly have to worry about or juggle these limitations.
That's half the fun, isn't it?
You know, I agree with Rutal with the idea of keeping things cheap too. I mean, you want to keep it as low cost as possible. You know, I mean, these things might, in first world countries, it might seem cheap, but it's not so cheap in other places, right? You want to make the nodes perfectly available in other countries, India, China, wherever, you know.
No, that's a very good point.
Yeah, I just like to pitch in there that, you know, the other limitation is which we actually supposed to do, but we're not doing, is the initial block download. What Stadicus was, you know, already touching on, the IBD is not possible on the, basically practically not possible on a Raspberry Pi. So, and that's the biggest constraint there. I think it's a USB 2 port. You know, it's even difficult to find another SBC which has a only has USB 2. So it doesn't matter if you run it with an SSD, you know, it won't be able to get quicker. So just to find a base which has, you know, that step up, that would make us able to do initial block download on the device.
But
I think that would be, yeah.
Sorry, let me ask you this though. But doesn't the SSD, I understand the limitation of the USB 2.0, but doesn't the SSD make it so that verifying the data is faster, or not? Because the read and write speed is a lot faster on an SSD than on a spindle drive.
On USB 2, it does not really matter, I guess.
Damn it.
USB 2 is just way too slow. Even when you run it on a regular laptop, if you connect a USB 2 drive, it can take weeks for the initial block download. This is also why we were looking for a different platform that also with touching with the power supply that actually has a barrel check, not just like a flimsy USB connector where everybody thinks he needs to like use his cell power adapter that gives like one, I don't know, nothing at all, and actually has some internal storage capacity. We're using PCIe directly with an SSD, so this is super fast.
Whoa.
So you don't have to use a cable that runs out and in again. So it's the little things, it's power, but it's also like just how well the platform is actually suited for a consumer device.
Well, since we're going, I had a kind of an order to the questions, but since we're going into this, you know, the hardware platforms and everything. Okay, so obviously recently I've been seeing some talk about the Atomic Pi. So it's that Atom board. And again, I don't know who on this panel would be best to speak about it. So I don't know if it would be OpenNoms or if it would be Rootsall or if it would be Staticus. So I do apologize. I just don't know. So I don't know if any of you guys want to throw in about this.
Well, I think I'm the one of the first people who have it actually. But the thing is with this is such a, it feels very much like a developer board because it actually doesn't have a power inlet. And
it's huge.
And also, yes, it is quite fits on a 3.5 inch HDD, so it is the same size as that. But the Rock Pro 64 is not much smaller than this, I think. But yeah,
it's the heatsink that's huge.
Well, that's encouraging. I like that this is big. I didn't get to run it because I don't have the power supply, because that is just due to be delivered to the UK. I could only order this on Amazon. But yeah, I mean, what it does, I think the processing power is not significantly, I think it's like 1.8 gigahertz, 4 cores, and the 2 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM. So, I mean, but this was $35. So, that's quite impressive for the price.
Yeah.
So, but, we'll need to see it working. If it works, then, and they also supply it long term, then probably, it could be a good thing. And the other, well, which we'll need is a case actually. So, probably CryptoCloaks will work on it. If
you tell me it works first, and then I'll start designing for it.
You will see it announced, I'm sure.
All right, perfect.
Mine's supposed to arrive any day.
Right.
We'll see.
But yes, so the platform is ready. Actually, there is just a pull request waiting, which introduces the x84 binaries, x86 binaries to the RaspiBlitz. So during the SD card build, if you are on an advanced mode and not just downloading the SD card image, you could build it up, and then you will build it up with all major platforms, including this, but this takes the same software as my laptop or my PC would.
Yeah.
So, well, that will be interesting.
Yeah, that was the other thing that I liked about it, was about that idea, because there's so many different distros that you can run on it, that you can try on it.
Yeah, that one. Does that one use would you be able to run, let's say, full standard Windows on it, or does it require the ARM image?
I think it's not ARM, so it's x86. So it's like it's an Intel Atom processor, right? But I think it's still what they provide is still a pre-built Ubuntu image. So I'm not sure if it's a standard. It's not running BIOS or like UEFI.
You can run Windows on it, but why would you want to?
Oh yeah, no. I was just saying because it runs a full OS, and I imagine the fullest OS is Windows.
No, it comes with Ubuntu already installed on the eMMC.
Okay, yeah, it's a pre-built image, yes.
From my experience, there are so many great boards out there, but I don't know, every single board is lacking something. It's really, there's not the one perfect board. This is somewhat frustrating because there's so much great stuff with huge ample power to run stuff, but all the time something is missing. So I would really like to see a full comparison on the Atom. I need to look into that. Sounds interesting.
Cool.
Yeah. I think the other very good alternative was the Thunderoid, the Odroid HC1, which is from Hard Kernel. That was a very nice board because it has a direct USB 3 to SATA connector inbuilt to the motherboard, but also it has no display output, so there is no way to make it fully compatible to RaspiBlitz because you cannot do it. But
with the Odroids, it was the same. It's like the HC1 or 2 was basically perfect, but it's like stripped bare without all the pins. So there's that, and no eMMC. And the XU4 is also is great again, has everything, but no like direct SSD connector. So
yes, it has a USB 3, actually two USB 3s, so that's good. And well, that's my favorite at the moment. I have 2 of those, and trying to come up with a thing, because they sell a very nice SATA to USB connector with a display, which is called the Cloud Shell 2, which makes one available to run a RAID and the display in one box. So that's a great thing. That is actually here behind me. It has 2.5-inch HDDs and the good old RaspiBlitz display, but only 3.2 inch. So that's a good thing. There is just more testing, and maybe the RAID idea to be elaborated on a bit more. I think that will be another future thing.
Mm-hmm. I like to patch in Raumi or Frankie, just to maybe, if you know, if there's a problem, if we on another board don't have the pins and we use maybe an HDMI output or something, how difficult would it be to port stuff we have right now? Is it a big shift? Did you have some insight in there?
I actually have. I bought, I think, the wrong display from your shopping list at the beginning, and I have a 3.5-inch display that actually has an HDMI connector. So I have 2 blitzes. One is the normal one, and the other one is connected via HDMI. So it's actually all completely the same.
I personally don't have any experience with HDMI. Just a quick add, I have bought the right display, but I just can't get the touch display to run, and I believe now that I probably got one of those defective ones, or I'm just too stupid to set it up. Maybe someone who has struggled with that can give me a heads up here, but I have read that there were some faulty ones that were delivered, but now it's too late to claim it, and I think I just have to buy a new one that is not broken. Yeah.
So, to move slightly away from the displays and the improvements, there was one question that I got from a lot of beginners, and I think it's a very simple question. It actually goes both to Rootsall and to Staticus. So, what is the difference between the RaspiBlitz and the Raspibolt? I mean, from what I can tell, it was just the matter of the setup. From what I did, I couldn't really tell much of a difference. Could either or both of you guys touch upon this?
I guess it's a bit like I've described before. My guide is more about the journey, if you want to do everything yourself. And I guess in the beginning, they were mostly the same in the end. Yeah. But Rootsall now has leapfrogged me by many months and years by adding new stuff. I really have not had the resources to focus that much on building even more on that. And I don't think it's actually the right thing to do, because it is a very limited setup. So I guess mine is more about journey, learning maybe first time the command line of Linux, having experience with the Raspberry Pi, and actually installing and actually downloading and verifying software for the first time, and somehow get it to run. And people that are more interested in just run it at all, or maybe even long term with maintenance and updates that are provided, should probably go directly to the RaspiBlitz.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to actually learn how to do command line and understand what you're kind of typing into the RaspiBlitz setup and figuring out that whole command line. Because if I didn't even start with yours and then I had to do some things on the command line in RaspiBlitz, I might have not had the best idea of exactly what I'm doing. So I think both are good. One, you start learning all the basics of command line and how to enter it and what it all looks like. And then once you get that figured out, then scripts is really nice. It does most of it for you, and then you just mess around a little bit in there. I think you guys both did a good job there.
Yeah. Physical, I think the difference is the RaspiBlitz started with an LCD from the beginning. So the RaspiBolt is a tutorial not having the LCD on there. So that's the kind of from the hardware feature. I think that's the most different. But if you already had the RaspiBolt running, you can just order the LCD, or you can even run the RaspiBlitz without an LCD. That's always possible, but it makes it a little bit more manual worky to get some stuff going. And then from the basic feature set in the beginning, it was very, very similar, because it was just kind of taking the scripts and then here and there modifying stuff. But then in the end, more and more stuff came together. So there's a background process that's running. There's all the setup in the beginning, the torrent downloads, so I think this is the RaspiBlitz is more like a educational package to go, because then you can concentrate a little bit more on running your Lightning node and managing your Lightning node, but also getting at least an experience how it is to take care about a server like a little that you have next to you, and kind of at least the basics, some power backups, some good power supply, and all just those kind of lessons, backups and all this stuff. So these are kind of the lessons that you can learn very quickly with the RaspiBlitz. But for sure, if you really want to see how it started, how it's all working together, the command line needs to be your territory, and this is something you very bad learn with the RaspiBolt, because so what you can do is kind of, if you have a longer weekend, maybe start with the RaspiBolt, and then if you say, okay, I then kind of switch over. If you just have kind of a short weekend to go, then maybe really take the RaspiBlitz and go from there.
Cool, thank you. Okay, we're going to. I'm actually going to ask one question for Rami, which I think you may have already answered, but people want to know, like, how long are they going to have to wait for that touchscreen integration? That one I got actually from quite a few people from different groups. So,
well, I'm not really sure if I'm the go-to guy for that, because in the end it's Christian's decision there, but I totally think that we need those 2 or 3 buttons for the main, for the most important things. We still have to decide on that. I'm not really sure if we need a button for a new invoice or something, because typing in the amount and stuff, that can be pretty tedious. Mm. But shutting it down in a safe way should be really a one-button thing, because maybe I'm not the only one that had trouble SSHing into that box and really shutting it down in a proper way. And some people might not be that experienced with Linux, and so we need a button for that. I think it shouldn't be too hard if we can really travel that route with the Chromium or an Epiphany browser in an X server without a window manager. I'm not talking the headless thing that creates images. But like I said, I couldn't get my own display to run with the touch display. I couldn't calibrate it and stuff. It didn't respond to anything. So, like I said, I have to buy a new one and give it a new shot. And then I'm really motivated to try it. And then I need some help from you guys to help me measure how much RAM it really takes, because I don't want to slow down the whole box just to display a few fancy images and buttons. But then we can do that with an HTML page. And it can look really nice. I think if we not use the HTML language, but the SVG language, we can do that with vector graphics. I really like making fancy displays and have it look nice. I have put up some nice pictures with a battery image and a hard drive image that can show you in a diagram how full the hard drive is and how hot it is with a thermometer, and so it looks kind of neat. I don't know if that's just playful stuff, but I believe if you take one glimpse at it.
Oh, okay. I can Oh yeah, everybody else is moving, so I think we have a still.
Oh yeah, I think his. I think his stream is gone, possibly.
Yeah. So maybe to jump in there in between is what we always can do is like if there is a script for a prototype, I can add this to a next release kind of thing, and then people can maybe very easily that are interested activate it and really make experience with it, and then if it works fine, we can really make it more easy to have it on by default if it's or something like that. So there's always this kind of way that we can put a script or something to install it to make something run to a next release, so everybody else can very easily try it out by just maybe go into the terminal, run a script, or even have it on a service menu, just turn it on, and then really reporting back the experiences, and then we can finally decide if it's worth to do it, to keep it, or is it to optimize, or is it to go a different route? So we can always experiment a little bit. So if you have a weekend or something, so Raumi, I hope the LCD will work soon, so that we can get some basic setup, even if it's not perfect. And the beautiful thing that you're aiming for, I hope you hear this later on. Oh no, he's gone. Maybe coming back. Let's see. And then really we can try it out and just give it a test run on the memory and see how it's working. And this is really for when people say when LCD or when LCD touch or something. I really hope that we can very early give you something that you can just switch on and try out. And then it's your turn to give us feedback if that's the way we need to go, or if we need to take a different direction there.
Yeah, Christian, maybe we can schedule a follow-up call, maybe you, me, and Raumi, and then we can maybe make some decisions for what we would like to have in a pilot, kind of in a beta or whatever, and then maybe I find some time to maybe do a kind of proof of concept or whatever, or extend the proof of concept that I have already.
Yeah, just add some note into a GitHub issue, because those are those ones I'm most following. This is kind of my to-do list, so I don't forget about it. So yeah, write something down, post the stuff you have, and then just request that we set up some small call or some coordination.
I can maybe add some additional perspective to the screen. I really think it's very important to have the screen. I actually forgot that mine doesn't have anyone, and you had it from the beginning. This is why when building the Bitbox base, we will definitely have a screen, and we will also have, like, I think communicating to the user what the current status is very important. So we will have like an RGB LED that is like green or red, just like indicating, okay, everything's fine, you don't need to worry. Or then also have a screen with dedicated buttons that will also have like LEDs in it, just to make some possibles like shutdown or create a new invoice or stuff like that possible. It's for me, it's also important, but to remember that the screen is coming from the Linux is an untrusted screen. So we will include like a full like hardware wallet into the Bitbox base. So we'll have a trusted screen that can display like QR codes coming directly from a secure device. And I think when displaying like QR codes or stuff that is like correlated with Bitcoin transactions, it's just important to take into consideration that if you have like something not working or a little bit malicious in it, it can really fool you very easily.
Oh yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, so this question actually, I don't know who it would be best for. So if you've got, if you've got some information on this, chime in. But on Twitter, Seth586 asked, what are the resilient and redundant file system options for a Raspberry Pi? My own research says this is a tough platform for such features, but I would love to know if I'm wrong. And I have to say, I personally, I haven't even attempted to do any redundancy options because I'm afraid to mess with the power, so I haven't even tried to add a secondary SSD or anything like that. So if anybody else would like to chime in.
I might start this off with an unpopular opinion that this is not like the route to go at all. I think the main issue with redundant, I see two reasons to have redundant storage. One is that LND, now it has backups, but it's a little bit rudimentary, but at least we did not have any backups before version 0.6. So that's a huge issue and reason for having the need to redundant backup, because you will lose all your funds if the hard disk dies. And the second one is if you have like a more advanced setup, for example, as an API backend or like for a backend for a web store or something like that, you really want to have high reliability. But then it's my own opinion that like a Raspberry Pi or even like a small dedicated device is really not the option to go, because it has so many single point of failures, like the power supply. If the device dies, your web shop is down. So this is really not something that I think is very nice. In my opinion, we really need to have software that does not rely on like redundant storage, where you can take sporadic backups. We're getting there, but I'm not sure that like doing all these RAID configurations on low-powered, low-cost hardware is really the way to go.
Cool, thank you. Does anybody else want to add to that?
Maybe I can add something. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go.
Okay. I have some personal experience with running a Raspberry Pi for backups for some important files of mine that I want at a different place. So I have a ButterFS system set up on a Raspberry Pi. It's even an older Raspberry Pi, so it doesn't even have as much power. I have 2 real hard drives in there, and it works quite well. And I can take snapshots of that, and it really does a lot of the wonders that ButterFS or all copy on write file systems can do. And we were discussing that in the past, that maybe ButterFS together with 2 USB sticks in there might be the way to go, because then you could take a snapshot and then send that with ButterFS send and ButterFS receive to a different offsite backup place. I know I kind of understand what you say, Steli, because I wouldn't run a company on a Raspberry Pi. It's still a hobbyist project for that. But I myself, I have lost like $20 on it. Because I was too stupid, I just unplugged it, and then I had corrupted.
Me too.
My money
multiple
was
times.
Me too.
Yes, so that's how you learn. I never did anything on testnet, not even with Bitcoin, and lessons learned, and it cost me money. But I think that might be a way to go, and I think the Raspberry Pi might be able to do that if we use ButterFS.
Yeah, I think that device that device I've just shown you is actually running ButterFS, and it's just, you know, that would be another kind of logic to be involved in the RaspiBlitz, that we actually could switch over to have the ButterFS as the default file system instead of the ext4. For the HDD, and then it would be very easy to just put another HDD on. For example, I have this, you know, very cheap thing, which is actually a USB RAID thing. You can put 2.5-inch HDD or SSD in it, and it has like an eSATA port, and also it's dedicated power supply, so that's not an issue anymore. Especially if you're able to connect it to a USB 3, right? Which is not on the Pi, but on other things there is. And you just do a software RAID as with ButterFS, and then you have all these options for like snapshots and possibly, you know, better speed as well. I think that's, yes, not for like you know, a big application backend, but for example, running a routing node, Lightning routing node, even a bit of downtime would cause difficulties for people who are connected to you. Making payments fail and things like that. And also, if you lose your blockchain, that might be, even a longer downtime. So I think it would be very good to have an option to do it, and then having an easy option to just, if you want, you can just plug in another HDD or another SSD and just run a command that now I'm mirroring my hard drive on it is actually possible, I think.
Do you have BTC Pay Server on that one box behind you? Can you run it?
No, I didn't play with BTC Pay Server yet, because it seems like it has its own kind of infrastructure which wouldn't be seamlessly integrated into the RaspiBlitz. But I think it's just a question of time. I think we'll look into it.
I want more info on that at the end of this, by the way. That box looks awesome.
It does.
All right, so let me wrap this up. So just to give a little bit outlook, what's coming up in the next release, I hope so. So data integrity, so that we really keep our data safe, and that we don't lose our funds, is I think the very important phase we're in right now in improving. So I think in the end, the RaspiBlitz, I see it in 3 phases. The first thing was really to get it running so that it's there for education, so people can play with it. Then I think the second phase is where we're in right now, is now to get it more stable, to make it more reliable, to have the backup stuff and all this in there, so that's at least as safe you can get in this price area to provide some solutions. And then in the next kind of phase, we can really then go into the user interface optimization, and really look at the service displays and the service daemons, and to make it more easier on really to build on this platform, and to reuse it a little bit more for non-technical people. And I think we're in this the second phase, and the last release was very important, especially with the LND, now with the channel backup file. Just maybe to give a background that maybe not everybody saw this feature. At the moment, it's the 1.2 version of RaspiBlitz has the LND 0.6. So this is when you update your RaspiBlitz, it produces automatically this channel backup file. This channel backup file at least helps you in a kind of emergency, together with your seed, to recover your channel funds. It will not save your complete channels. It needs to, on a recovery case, it will close the channels down, but then you will be able to recover the channel funds. So at least most of your funds, because you've paid some fees in the process, whatever, but at least most of your funds can be secured. What the RaspiBlitz is doing on top to help you on this feature is that it automatically detects when this file is changing, because the backup file is always changing. The channel backup file is always changing. When you open up a channel, when you close a channel, the RaspiBlitz will recognize the change and make a copy to the SD card. So you have at least already, and that's on board. You don't have to switch anything on. When you back up and when you upgrade to the new RaspiBlitz 1.2, this will do it for you. So when your hard drive dies, you find this file on the SD card at least. You can even go a step further with the new version. But you have to configure it manual. You can say, I want to make a remote backup of this channel backup file. For example, if the device gets lost, so somebody steals it or something like that, but you have your seed, then you have on your remote backup, like you can use Dropbox at the moment. If you don't like Dropbox, you can use your own server with SCP. So there are these 2 options to make automatic remote backup. So if your RaspiBlitz gets stolen and you have your seed and you have your channel backup file on a remote server, you can try then to recover the funds. So this is at least so I think for me, it was a very important improvement on the last version. On the next version, exactly, we want to go to this topic to how do you secure your data a little bit more with redundancy. And this is the point where the ButterFS experimentation comes in. And instead of going on adding a second HDD, what would be kind of a cost factor by, I think, at least 50 euros or something roundabout you're adding to the project. The idea is really going with what is the most valuable data we have. It's the LND directory with all your channel data and all the backups. So that's the thing you want to secure the most. And this is normally just some 100 megabytes, whatever. If you build a lot of channels up, it may go to a gigabyte. Not sure, but you're in the gigabyte areas, not in the terabyte area. So what you can do is really like this small USB thumb drives is really small and very cheap. So you get starting like €4 or something. You just take 2 of them and then you edit them. You have to the hard drive there, but then you add 2 of those little boys over there, and it really just fits into the form factor. It really, I think it looks nice. So, and then you have on this both thumb drives you have a Btrfs RAID setup, and there you can store. Then the RaspiBlitz will store there your LND data, and I hope this is like at least on a small price. It will hopefully add a little bit more security and redundancy to your data storage. Of course, if you lose if you have a data corruption on the blockchain, this can mean some downtime, but it's not the valuable data because it's the data you can get back from the network somehow. So I think really the most data we need to protect in the next step is the LND data. And I hope to get this with the next release out there. There's already a little testing script, but I have to improve on that. I think it will be Btrfs. I was shortly thinking about ZFS, but ZFS is a little bit more harder to set up. So it's not that easy to set up. So more things can be done wrong in the setup. And also there's some licensing stuff I was seeing that needs to be agreed or something. So Btrfs seems to be, first of all, I hear good experience from you. That's a good sign. And on the other thing, it comes very naturally with the Raspbian setup, so from the repositories from the Raspbian. So I think it's a good thing to install and have it easy integrated. So I'm free to any comments here. So because this is the kind of very next release planning I'm on. So if anybody wants to add on that, please feel free to add here.
Awesome.
So yes, as I think obviously that is a great development, and I will be obviously using it as soon as it is available. And I also tested it, to be honest, that script. And just to add to ZFS, it is the main problem with it is that it's very RAM intensive. So you would need to have multitudes of, even 4 gigabytes wouldn't be enough for ZFS. So I think that's the minimum requirement actually for 4 gigabytes. So it's not in question for the Raspberry Pi especially. The other thing which I like to add, that as we are starting with the Btrfs, it would be I just think that it will be a very good option to have the actual file system overall everywhere on the HDD and the thumb drives as well, because then we have the options to to mirror actual small partitions. We could have like a small partition with the LND mirrored onto one USB drive only. We wouldn't even need 2 of those. And also, as I said, we would have the option just to, as easy as that, to connect another HDD if someone would want to, and have another mirror of that as well. Needs testing, of course. Thanks.
One additional comment. The discussion has now been mostly about LND. C-Lightning currently does not have any backup, but they're working on it. Rusty is working on it to actually implement DB hooks directly at DB level. So I think with the next release, it's planned 0.71 or so. There might be already a backup solution also for C-Lightning. And this, of course, is very important. But then you can just take this one little thing like the channel backups with LND, put it somewhere, be it on the SD card or the eMMC or on the hard disk. The blockchain itself is like public and can all the time be replicated anyway. But if you have enough power to download it again.
Thank you.
Just one comment on that. We are also working on integrating or creating an integrated solution on static channel backups in Ride the Lightning as well.
Oh, cool.
Thank you. That was actually one of the questions, Salby. That was actually one of the questions we got as well, was to have a backup method through the web UI, you know, so that they could just back it up to whatever computer they're logged into at the moment.
Yeah. So RaspiBlitz and Nodal, they are implementing the native solutions at a hardware level, right? But solutions like BTC Pay Server may need the solution that we will provide for backing up, LND channels.
Okay, cool. So guys, we blew through these 2 hours really fast because it's a lot of people. I mean, we can definitely I do have some more questions if you guys are interested in keeping on going, but I'm also ready. You know, I understand, you know, everybody's all over the world and it's kind of late. So if you guys want to wrap up, we can get started with your, if you have any final thoughts, and I'll go from right to left this time, so the same people aren't stuck waiting again.
Sure.
Staticus,
should I go first?
Oh, I have a question real quick. Staticus, what's the reason that you went with C Lightning instead of LND? I'm just curious.
When we looked at all the possible solutions, and I've been working with all of them, we really liked how stable and like server focused C Lightning is. In my opinion, LND is a little bit more desktop oriented, but it's also a great solution, but it's not as you cannot it's hard to describe in clear words. C Lightning is very granular. It has like this modular approach. All the services are like very clearly separated, and you can actually swap them out. Just for example, there's a HSM module taking care of all the private keys and stuff. You can just swap that out and maybe later replace with a hardware device. This is what we really liked. And it's extremely efficient. It takes less RAM MER tests than LND.
Do you think, with your experience with the Pi and
on C Lightning, I just wanted to add that we are also looking to extend RTL to C Lightning. So right now, at this point, we are working on creating the API layer so that RTL can communicate with C Lightning. It's a bit of a learning curve. C Lightning is a little difficult to learn, and given that I had a lot of familiarity with LND, so then kind of unlearning a little bit of LND and learning C Lightning. So, but yeah, we are working on extending RTL UI to C Lightning as well.
Cool. Sorry,
putting C Lightning in to RaspiBlitz, choosing one or the other, that'd be too difficult, eh, Christian?
Yeah, it's at the moment it's very kind of hard coded on the LND. With all its special kind of things. If somebody comes up with an abstraction layer, that would make it easy, but I think this is something everybody dreams about, but nobody does. On the other side, maybe when we go a little bit into the abstraction areas a little bit, like with the info service or something, then you can maybe think from the beginning in making it a little bit more easier, so that other scripts kind of just get their info from the info service, and then the info service just has to maybe see if there's something to do. But in the end, it's a dream that I also had, to make it both ways, but it's hard to do and a lot time consuming. So at the moment, I think it's good to concentrate on the LND development, and if there's somebody wants to put a lot of time on it, we can see maybe to get it done. But I'm a little bit
One feature I would like to highlight is that I really love the C Lightning server plugins. They have a very nice way to extend functionality directly on the command line. So at the moment, we're using a Prometheus plugin. So that allows us to collect all the metrics directly from C Lightning without having any other external program. And there's also a lot of work going on for more intelligent autopilots that you can just you pick one and run it as a plugin. So this is very cool. That's the approach that C Lightning took.
Cool. One last question, if I could, Staticus. So what's the problem with the Docker? Why, like what you said something about it has problems or?
Well, I don't think there's real problems. I mean, they allow for abstraction, to have like clearly defined modules of programs working together, but you have no like guarantee that your overall system is in a consistent state. So what we like to do is to have everything completely like in one big image, right? Not like in multiple images. And what Docker definitely does not like improve is security, because all the Docker stuff runs as root. So it's a little bit of a mixed sort.
Okay.
Very cool. Yeah, somebody had asked about Docker, so thank you very much for answering that. I appreciate it. So, if there's no further questions here, we're gonna start wrapping it up, and I'm gonna go from right to left on my end. So, Sabi, if you have any final thoughts before we part.
Just want to give an idea of what we are working on right now on L&D front. We are working on actually extending the life cycle of node onboarding to include the init wallet as well, so that keys can be generated through RTL, and then we are going to move to static channel backups, and then we'll next on the list will be loop out, and then we will continue to improve our UI in general. And in parallel, we are also trying to work on creating, extending RTL UI to C Lightning and trying to create feature parity between both the implementations. So that's what's coming on RTL.
Very cool. Thank you very much again for your time and for being here. I really appreciate your contribution. And all right, Staticus, you have any final thoughts?
I think my last hint would be for people to check out the project I'm currently working on, the Bitbox base. You can find it definitely on Twitter or through Shift Crypto Security. One of the main things we're currently exploring, besides the node itself, is how to create additional use cases for an integrated HSM, so that you can actually have, it's definitely not cold storage, so it's not like a replacement for your Ledger or Bitbox or whatever, but to have a more secure way of keeping funds for some time, maybe together with BTC Pay server or something like that, and automatically signing transactions, for example, to send then the Bitcoin to an exchange or to other whitelisted addresses, or to top up automatically your mobile wallet, stuff like that. This is something that I'm very excited about.
Cool. Thank you. Frankie, do you have anything you want to finish with?
I'm not sure whether this was mentioned before. There is this hack day coming up, right? I didn't know about it. I'm just looking into hotels that's in Germany, in Munich, in 2 weeks, right?
If somebody can add, I don't know about it, so I apologize.
Definitely, I'm going to be there as well, and that's a good reminder. I don't have a hotel yet, so it's probably time to start looking for Airbnb or a hotel. Thanks. I think it's 1st and 2nd of June in Munich, Lightning Hack Day organized by Fulmo. And it's awesome. Again, if you pay with Lightning, it's only €5. If you pay on-chain, it's €50.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Right, I think
that's really cypherpunky.
Yeah. So I'll be there.
Anybody else? Yeah, cool.
I will be, and I think BTC Socialist should just maybe tell us about a bit what preparations he's doing for the actual workshop there, because that's it's very much based on RaspiBlitz, isn't it?
Yeah. So Christian's asked me to, because he's not going to be able to attend, so he's asked me and a couple of others to help out on the Blitz hack desk. So it's been really informative, watching you guys talk, and we're gonna Christian. I think quite an important part of the RaspiBlitz project is the part of the project which encourages people to set up their own workshops. And then Christian's got some excellent materials for that on the RaspiBlitz on GitHub as well, and that really helps sort of spread, you know, blitzers out there into the world. So I'm going to be helping on the desk in Munich, and then I'm going to be running that same tutorial in San Francisco Bitcoin conference, and then again in Transylvania at the Transylvania Crypto Conference, I think it's called. And there's another conference in Birmingham as well where I'm going to be running it as well. So that's a lot of new Lightning nodes into the hands of people. And I'm not the most technically proficient person, you know, but I can get my head around building a blitz. And kind of point people in the right direction on that front. And I think the important part is that with Lightning full nodes or just engaging with Lightning, engaging with Bitcoin, is you've got sort of a vast spectrum of use cases and of people who want, you know, a node for different purposes. And, you know, my man down the road running a coffee shop, he may just want, you know, something like OpenNode or Strike, where he can just, you know, give up the security of letting someone else manage the Lightning payments, and then concatenate into a mainnet, you know, ledger wallet or something, hardware wallet. And then you can have someone then with a, you know, a RaspiBlitz at home, which they've built. And I think that for me, we obviously need to have a solution on a Raspberry Pi, because it's the most used board out there, and it's got such a vast array of support and big community on the internet. And, you know, I was just listening to you guys talk about the ability to have a power off button. I swear I've seen like an LCD screen with buttons on it, physical buttons on it. So I'm going to buy one of those and see if I can sort of integrate something there, or maybe using the GPIOs just to pop in a little physical off button, because that would be useful. So yeah, I mean, I think there's like a vast spectrum of use cases of people being, and I think we need like, you know, people engaging with Lightning and with Bitcoin on all platforms, the better we can kind of complement each other and help each other out on the different platforms, the better, really. But no, I'm really looking forward to Munich. And yeah, if you're going, if you go on the Lightning Hack Day website, if you Google Munich Lightning Hack Day, you should find it. On there is the ability to be able to pay for the components, so you can build your RaspiBlitz as well. And yeah, so really looking forward to it, and it's a great honor to be asked to help out on the desk, really.
Cool, that's awesome. Okay, so here we're gonna go to Rick from Crypto Cloaks. Any final thoughts? Any closing ideas?
Yeah, please don't make any major changes to the outside of the RaspiBlitz and add stuff, because we'll have to redesign the case again. Just kidding. Either way, I'll do it. I'm gonna get that open source case working on it, and then I'll start talking with Christian about that and get it up on GitHub. It'll take me a while, but I think if I just make a simple one, we can go from there. I think people will be happy. And that way, maybe at Hackadays, you can set up a 3D printer and you can just print the cases to show people. I don't know if that would be an option. I think that'd be pretty cool. The only question I have is there ever going to be an option for one-click updates on the RaspiBlitz to make it super easy, so I don't have to take out the SD card or anything like that? That would be really handy.
Yep, I definitely agree. Rootsall, do you have a comment to that before we move on?
Yeah, the updating thing is, I know there is the idea if you just click once and then it gets from GitHub or it gets from your server the new version or something. Yeah, I really like to keep it a little bit more plain with the SD card at the moment, because it's the most flexible way and it is the more secure way, and people have to learn you have to be able to exchange your SD card, and this is something that needs training, and this is a minimum requirement, at least if you run a service, that you're able to reflash your SD card. So I know maybe you can make a reckless button service at one point, but not from my side. Somebody else has to make a pull request.
By the way, Crypto Cloaks, I'm really looking forward to that pirate case.
Yes,
that's an awesome idea.
Thanks. The pirate chain came to me, and I know everybody doesn't like shit coins or whatnot, but that's what I do. I design cases for everybody's projects, so that's my passion. And that pirate chest, I think, is going to be pretty sweet. It's a Rock 64 board inside, so I think when you guys implement on different boards or infrastructure or whatnot, we can maybe take that case or we can do whatever with it. Really, it'd be awesome.
Cool.
The Rock 64 is the exactly same form factor as the Raspberry Pi, so it should just work.
There's a couple little differences. The hole on the one of the what input is it? There's a couple different inputs, and then on the back there's one USB 3 instead of 2 USB 2s. So it's minor changes to the cases, but there are some differences. And I believe on the back of the Rock 64 board there's an RFID that needs to be visible, so that way you can use that too. But yeah, they're pretty much the same form factor. They're small, just a minor changes.
Okay. I think we should have the pirate chest available for the rest of it as well.
We'll work on it. I'll make sure I'm not doing anything against the pirate chain, but yeah, I can bring a separate chest to it, and we can have a little mini pirate chest for Lightning anyway. So
yes. Thank you very much, Rick. Frankie, Romy, do you have anything to add?
Well, not wanting to go into detail and not wanting to blow the scope here, but what I think is really important, what do you guys all think? When will we get the killer app? I think I compare this to the rise of the internet and how I have been telling people when I was a lot younger in the 90s that this will be a big thing. And I remember that my dad was all, no, I'm never going to send an email and all that kind of stuff. And I was telling him about POP3 services, SMTP servers, TCP IP, and all that stuff. And he said, that's too technical. I will never do that. And then we had this one moment. We were on vacation in Canada. We met a couple people there that took a picture of us. And then the guy asked me, are you on the internet? And I was like, yes. He said, do you have an email? I said, yes. So we exchanged emails. And then when we got back to Germany, I got a picture by email of us standing at this place, you know. And my dad was like, whoa, this is really useful. So that was like my moment where the internet, something was finally something real, something I was talking about. And I'm wondering, when will we have this with Lightning? You know, we are all talking about this theoretical thing, but when will I pay for reading a newspaper article without seeing advertisement? Or what do you guys think? Are we close to this moment?
I think I'll start real quick. I think BTC Socialist has it right on the head, where all his little point of sale apps or point of sale devices, I think that's where it's going to really start. If you go to the coffee shop down the road and all of a sudden they start accepting Lightning payments, well, I think it starts small like that. You have a little device there and it slowly builds from that. And I think that's honestly one of the first stepping stones that we really build off of.
Yeah, I think if I can just chime in, I think that not that Lightning is the killer app, but I remember trying to explain Bitcoin to people before being able to have, you know, microtransactions, super fast microtransactions, and you'd explain it to it censorship resistant and financial self-sovereignty, blah, 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 and no trusted third party, all these things which we very much value, but they would be like, and then that whole bunch of, you know, those people, as soon as, you know, you'll be able to go, someone built Satoshi's place, and you have YAWLs and those applications, and I was able to show them like a microtransaction over the internet, like, and it settling instantly. They all, you know, at that point they all went, whoa, and they understand the power of it. So I think for me that was what made Lightning. It has made Lightning exciting. Is it for normal people now? Like this is a technology where it actually outcompetes with the current payment networks. So I think that not that Lightning is the killer app, but I think it will create some use cases which the current, you know, financial networks just can't facilitate, and then that they will then be the killer apps. I'm quite interested in, just as an example, like vending machines in countries. So if you have a country with someone like Venezuela and you can't have something like a vending machine or an arcade machine because you need to keep changing the amount of money you need to put in, then something like, you know, that vendor, that merchant could start implementing, you know, Lightning payments into their machines, and then suddenly, you know, that's like a viable business to put up these, you know, these vending machines or something. So I think it's going to allow some use case which will then create, you know, this sort of killer app. But I think Lightning kind of is almost the killer app of Bitcoin, if that makes sense.
I'm not sure if there's going to be one killer app. I guess we could fill a whole new podcast with that topic. For me, the key element is to have like permissionless innovation at the edges and not from a centralized point in the middle. So it can be little things, and it will differ whether we're talking about first world countries or third world countries, or like hardware applications or online stuff. I think it will just seep into society. This is my opinion. I don't think there needs to be just one big moment. The killer application of, let's say, blockchain, in my opinion, is money. So Bitcoin is the killer, is already the killer application. That's just going to be a lot of different variations in kind of medium or use cases from that, but doesn't need to be one big one.
Cool. And I do agree, BTC is the killer app. But okay, so next up for final thoughts is Rootsall. You have anything to close out with?
Yeah, just to let know, I will be not on the Hack Day in Munich, so I have a family event, so I'm really sad that I missed now to see you all, at least people that are coming. But I want to mark you one date in your calendar. It's the October, the 19th and the 20th. There will be the Lightning Conference. Elizabeth Stark announced it in New York Week, and we will have people from Lightning Labs, from C Lightning as a Blockstream and a song, and even from Japan, I think, again. So I think this will be the kind of conference around Lightning in October. And of course, the RaspiBlitz and having your node and all the stuff, and all you two would be so great to have you there. If you have, I hope there will be cheap tickets too for people that want to hack out. I think there will be some expensive tickets for people that want to do the fancy conference VIP stuff. Don't know, but I think this will be. I hope in October everything will come together, and I want to see you all there. That would be great.
and this is New York. Sorry.
No, Berlin.
Oh, Berlin. Okay, cool.
I know.
That's okay. That's still cool.
Cool.
Thank you. Okay, let's see here. BTC Socialist, we got a lot of your final thoughts already, but do you have anything else that you want to add before we move on?
No, not really. I mean, just that to encourage education and to encourage the sort of wider communities to start experimenting with implementing Lightning and also building services which then utilize Lightning as well. Looking forward to the Hack Day. Looking forward to October. That is also going to be amazing. And just looking forward to sort of spreading the word and then encouraging more people to experiment with building their own nodes and making the Lightning network bigger.
Very cool. Thank you. All right, Fluid Voice, you're up. Any final thoughts?
No, I don't have too much. Just I'm hoping that we can get more APIs built on top, like things even on top of Lightning that makes it easier for programmers to build apps. I mean, we're talking about wanting the killer app, but it's still extremely difficult, right? And we can see even Lightning is still maturing with getting backups, and so even I think we're still a little early, but I think. We've heard of things of, like, for example, the attention economy, right? And I look at Lightning and micropayments as being able to enable this attention economy where people can get paid small bits, satoshis for their attention instead of the advertising model, right? So, but I think it's going to take some time. We need more APIs to make it easier, more programmers.
Yep, I definitely agree with that assessment, and thank you very much. So finally, here we've got Open Noms. Do you have any final thoughts you want to leave us with before we close out this call?
Well, yes. Well, thank you. I enjoyed a lot meeting you all and speaking about all these ideas. And I think I just had an information that Rootsall, you might be coming to London on the 10th of July. Is that right? It may be together with BTC Socialist. show off some technology, I think. So it will be, yeah, if not that, then in October, it will be very nice to see. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that. Can you hear me? You can hear me, can't you? Yeah, no. Christian's coming over, and then we're going to go to London, and we're going to be running a Blitz tutorial, and then we're also going to bring some devices as well. So one of the things I'm working on is like an arcade machine, which is going to be interacting with Lightning, and then I'll bring all the sort of points of sale and sweep machines and all that stuff as well, and people can see some hardware devices retrofitted. So yeah, that. So that should be fun as well. That should be fun, and that's on the 10th.
That is very cool. Oh, sorry.
When are you guys all coming to Minneapolis? Anytime around. Please come to Minneapolis. It'd be awesome.
Or New York.
Yeah,
or Boston. All right, guys. So if we don't have anything else, I want to thank everybody very much for all of your time. It's been 2.5 hours. I've probably never had so much RaspiBlitz Lightning node knowledge crammed into such a short period of time with so many experts on so many different pieces of it. It's absolutely incredible, and I really think the listeners are going to enjoy it. So I'm going to let you guys have the rest of your night. Thank you again so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
That was awesome. Thank you very much.
All right.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. I hope you enjoyed our roundtable. I learned all kinds of stuff, and I'm already excited about Bitcoin anyways and Lightning, so this just helped to add to that. So I'm gonna put everybody's Twitter information in the show notes. If you want to reach me, I can be found at CoinIcarus on Twitter and Telegram. If you want to reach me by email, it's funwithcrypto@protonmail.com. Thank you very much for listening. Catch you all next time.